Okay. Today we'll start a new chapter, a new parak. That's Daf Tes, page 9, right at the top. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. And the source of our learning, we should have the basic English immediately. Dr. Stein is teaching tomorrow. Okay. These props. Very nice. Okay, so the Mishnah starts like this. Hareini Nazir, Menagregus, Menadvela, Bishamer, Nazir, Nazir. Let's say someone says that I'm going to be a Nazir from dried figs or from dried fig cakes. So Bishame says he becomes a Nazir, Bisil says he's not a Nazir. Now, a Nazir is that he's separated from wine or grape products. So this person, he said he's going to be a Nazir, but not from grape products, he said from figs. So Beishame says that works. To see how that works. Well, an easy way to explain this is just Beishame says he's going to be a Nazir. So what he says later doesn't matter. So he becomes a Nazir. And Basil says that he's not a Nazir because you can't just say that. He said, I'm a Nazir. He then explained that what he means is this. It's not going to work. We'll see. The Gemara is going to elaborate. One thing that comes out interesting is what about the figs and the dried figs? Oh. Okay. Thank you.
That was the question. And it will have the three prohibitions plus the figs?
No. So far, what comes out is according to Bisham is going to be a Nazir, but no figs. But figs is not part of it. Figs will be permissible. He'll be able to eat figs. That's what we're learning right now. He's a Nazir, but the figs was not part of this. And Basil says he's not a Nazir, and he's also allowed to eat figs. So the figs over here right now is totally permissible. Good, is he on the water? I'm sorry, you get hooked. Yeah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda says that he got the machlekes wrong. That was not what Beishamai meant. Rabbi Yehuda says, even when Beishamai said that he's a Nazir, he didn't really say that he was a Nazir. What Beishamai really said was that the figs are prohibited. Not that he's a Nazir. Now, the Rush adds in, when the person says, what I meant was that I was making a neder from figs that they should be prohibited like a sacrifice. And I was using the term Nazir, but I meant to say that they're prohibited. Now, but the chiddush of the Rush is that the person didn't actually say that. He just is explaining that that's what he meant. He says, "Belibi haya." In my heart, that's what I meant to say. That was my intention. Okay. The Gemara asks, Hareini Nazir minan gregris minad vela. I'm a Nazir from figs, from fig cakes. Bishama Yaimrim Nazir. Bishama says that he's a Nazir. That's a quote from the Mishnah. Bamai. Why is he a Nazir? Because the Eibishter says, Hashem says, from anything that's produced by the vine. How to become a Nazir from separating himself from figs? So the Gemara answers, Beishamai Sabri la Reb Meir. Beishamai holds like Reb Meir. The Amar Eina the Maitzi Dvarav Levatala. Reb Meir holds that if a person says something, it has to have some meaning. A person wouldn't say it for nothing. So we have to explain what it means, and what it's going to mean would be that he means that he's a Nazir. Well, where is this Reb Meir? So it turns out that Reb Meir's talking about the original case of Reb Meir, is if a person says erech keli ze alai. Now the rule of erechen is if someone donates to the temple the value of a person based on his age. There's a difference between what age bracket he's in, if he's a man, and if he's a man or a woman. The men depreciate more than the women. So, but that's the term. Erech means that he's donating the value of a person based on the age bracket. Let's say he says, I want to give the erech of this utensil, of this vessel. There's no such thing. No such thing as the erech of this vessel. So what we do is we interpret that what he really means is the value, not the erech. The term erech is only used for people. There's another term, damim, which means the monetary value. He could have used that, but he didn't say that. But because a person would never say something that's totally meaningless, so we have to interpret it that what he meant was damim, and he's going to give the value. So,
but isn't the whole Gemara though? Sorry, but isn't this whole Gemara about cases in which words don't mean are not al batala? Like, aren't there plenty of examples where a person would not become a nazir, even if they say something that indicates that they want to be a nazir?
Yeah, but we're going to challenge that always if Beis Shammai is going to hold that.
Follow
this. This is Beis Shammai's view.
Okay.
Part is a statement. The second part is a stipulation.
Is an explanation. The second part is he's explaining his own statement. Yeah, you don't have to learn it like that. You can say that the person says, "I'm going to be a nazir from Gregor's." The way your commentary is saying it, I don't know how that commentary says it. The way his English says is, "I am a nazir, and therefore I will be." Is there a therefore in there, or is it? You have the word therefore right at the beginning of the Mishnah. Or does he just say, "I am a nazir from"? Yeah, I'm here. Yes, you have a therefore. Yeah, they say therefore, but the other English doesn't say therefore. So he's just saying, "I'm a nazir from dried figs." Yeah. Would there be a difference if he says therefore? What's happening is I don't think he's saying therefore, because in Hebrew he's not saying therefore. What Beis Shammai is explaining is that when he says he's a nazir, that part is going to take effect. And what is he saying about the dried figs? I don't know. What's the dried figs? We have to see soon how the dried figs is going to affect.
Therefore reminds me of the explanation we had earlier. If I eat today, I won't eat tomorrow.
But one of those. No, that's not what this means. What this means is that instead of being a nazir from wine, he's a nazir from figs. Yeah. Well, okay, we have sort of an explanation for Beis Shammai. We want to interpret a person's words that it should make some sort of sense. He says, "I'm a nazir from figs." We interpret it to make sense that he's really a nazir. Okay, where do we see that you do that? You do that by the erechin. You interpret the erech of a vessel to interpret it that it really means the value. Basil says, Basil Sabrila, they hold Rabbi Yosi, like Rabbi Yosi, Damar Bigmar Devar of Adam Nitzvas. What the Gemara does here is not symmetrical. I would have liked what the Gemara to do would say that Shammai holds that a person doesn't say something for nothing, and therefore it must have some interpretation. Let's make it meaningful. Basil says that a person does say something for nothing, and therefore we don't have to make it meaningful. What he said is meaningless. The Gemara doesn't do that. The Gemara says, Beis Shammai says that what a person says has to have some meaning. So let's interpret it to mean something. And what is it going to mean? That he's a nazir. What does Basil hold? Basil holds also that what a person says has to be meaningful. But a person, if there's a conflict between what he says at the beginning and what he says at the end, which part of his language do you take? So this is really based on a Gemara in Tamura, but it applies to other things as well. Let's say someone in Tamura, the rule was if someone says this animal should be exchanged for an Ayla and should be exchanged for a Shlamim. Now, when he's looking at his animal, it can only be exchanged for one. But he exchanged it for an Ayla and a Shlamim. Which one do you grasp? Is it an Ayla or is it a Shlamim? So you would assume that you would just take the first one. You said Ayla. It's an Ayla. It came immediately an Ayla. When he said that, now there's a prohibition to do that. You're not supposed to exchange one sacrifice for another, but if you do, it takes effect. Rabbi Yaisi holds that the second thing that he said, which is Shlamim, also takes effect. That a person is grasped by the second thing that he says, by the later, the latter statement, which is that it's a Shlamim. Now, in that instance, it turns out that what you can do is you sell the animal, and the money of it becomes the money that will go towards an Ayla and a Shlamim. So it's possible to do both. But over here, where it's not going to be possible to do both, it can't be a Nazir. In other words, that term can't fit. Both of those terms can't fit in the same sentence. A Nazir from figs. So therefore, we're just going to say that he accepts the second one. Okay. Now, there's two ways of looking at this. There's the Rivan and Taisvus. The way I explained it now was more like the Rivan. Okay. So here we have his neder, where he took a vow that he's going to be a Nazir, but together with that, he retracts. The Pesach means the opening to get out of the neder. He retracts from it. He says that he wanted it to be from figs. He's a Nazir from figs. So that retraction takes away, and as we look at the second thing that he says, and that retraction takes away what he said initially. The Gemara asks, Beishamai nami neder pesachim. What does Beishamai do? I know Beishamai says you have to make his words meaningful. So we say that he's a Nazir. But what do you do with the second thing that he says? He says that he means from figs. So he's also retracting. The Gemara says, no, that's not so. Beishamai savala k'Rab Meir damar ein adam mitzi devarav levatalo kiven damar hareini Nazir havali Nazir. He says a person has to say something meaningful. So he said that he's a Nazir, so he becomes a Nazir. But kikamer min agregus min advela. But then when he goes and he says that he means from figs or fig cakes, that shuli hu dekasi. He's actually coming to annul the vow. Now, he actually wasn't annulling the vow. What it means is that he's coming to let us know that his vow is a mistake. How does annulment work? Annulment works, it says that what I said was really a mistake. I never would have said that.
It says it's from cakes of dried figs. So
right. But he was saying,
like figs slice.
No, the issue here is that a Nazir is usually a Nazir from grape products. He goes on and he says it's from figs. So that means that he's retracting from his Nazirs. Beishamai letamayo, if he's retracting from Nazirs, then why is he not a Nazir? Beishamai letamayo, Beishamai follows their reason. Damar ein shaila behektish. We said that if someone makes something hektish, you can then annul it by the chacham. You can say no.
It just seems like he's claiming that he's taking a vow for being Nazir, and also he's making a vow to abstain from figs too.
Right.
It could be like two things. I don't see what one has to do with the other.
Right.
If it's figs.
Right. That's it. That's coming from the translation though. In the text, if you take a look at the Hebrew, it says Harini Nazir min adregris min advela. I am a Nazir from figs. Now he could vow from figs, but then he would use the word nadar.
Well, it says here in the bold, it says from figs.
Right.
But it adds and therefore.
Right. And therefore it can throw you off a little bit. But from the text, it's saying that he's a Nazir from figs.
I'm like Beis Shammai. It's written here.
Yeah, because they're explaining Beishamai. Because that's how Beishamai is going to explain it. So, well, the question is if he says that he made a mistake, what happens then? Can you just say I made a mistake, and then it's all over? Or is it too late?
He gets Malchus.
Sorry. If he does technically Dibur, that he could retract the whole thing. But here he said in one sentence, he's a Nazir from figs. Now what do we do with him?
But to Yitzhi's point, we had the opinion yesterday.
Where a person can explain what he
You
meant.
ask the person, what did you really mean?
Yeah.
This idea of Toch Kedei Dibur applies here. That's something.
I think it has to all be Teichudei Dibur. If it was a separate statement, then he would have been a Nazir on his own. And what he said from the next thing is some other vow. If it's a yad or something. I don't know. It has to be all the same sentence. Right? And in the same sentence, this is what we're doing. What is he saying? So Beishamai says that we have to accept that he said that he's a Nazir. Now he's trying to get out of it by saying that it was a mistake because he said he really meant that it was from figs. Beishamai says, "Ein shayla behektish." You can't get out of this. Kivan she'ein shayla behektish, ein shayla benazirus. Because you can't be shayla, you can't annul a vow that you made something hektish. You also can't annul a vow of nazirus. So it's too late. He said that he's a Nazir. He's going to try to regret it by saying he means from figs. It's too late. Because you can't annul a vow like that. No, he's not annulling it, but what we mean is he can't turn it into a mistake. The way annulment works is by saying that it was a mistake. You can't claim that it's a mistake. No.
Why do we have to use this final answer, Pesach, and the second thing, say it's a mistake? Why don't we say he made a mistake and say Nazir, he meant Nazir. And therefore he meant, I don't want to be a Nazir. He says, I just want to be Nazir, then I'm not going to fix.
Yeah.
Because we used to always say,
someone mentioned that.
I didn't realize that. I said the wrong word.
Someone mentioned that.
It's a lot easier. But Nazir is like with that. So that's how you use the wrong term. That's what they'll explain. Oh, I never meant it.
Yeah, that would be the easy answer. The easy answer, that's probably what Rabbi Yehuda means. Rabbi Yehuda says Beishamai only meant that he's prohibited from figs. That's Rabbi Yehuda, especially according to the way the Rosh learned that he's not even saying that. He just said that's what I meant. Yeah. Yeah. Nice jacket.
Different jacket.
Seems the Rabbi Meir doesn't admit the idea that someone could have been mistaken in what he said. He says, because then the book came out as awful.
Right. Somebody tries to Rabbi Meir tries to make it meaningful. The way the Rivan says it, because when he said that I'm a Nazir from Gregorus, he knows that it's not a Nazir from Gregorus. It must mean that he's a real Nazir. Dr. Stein is asking, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe he knows that there's no Nazir from Gregorus. He just made a nether from Gregorus. Okay.
But if he said Toch Kedei Dibur, I'm a Nazir, no, I'm not a Nazir, then Beishamai would say that he's still a Nazir.
Oh. I think we had this discussion in Nedarim, and I don't remember the conclusion. Did we had a discussion on how Teichudei Dibur worked in Nedarim? Do you always have a time where you're able to retract, like a 3 second limit, where you can just retract, if that's how Teichudei Dibur works? I don't remember what we said. I don't know the answer. We had it in the Nedarim. In the Nedarim, we had somewhere.
I know there's a halacha about that, saying like a bracha or
By a
something.
bracha, you can adjust it. Yeah. But by a neder, can you adjust it within 3 seconds? That you can.
And it was the same use that turned the van like
Like the idea were the
Shalom
amount.
Rebbe. What's the saying?
Right. Shalom Aleichem Rabbi.
Shalom.
Rabbi Amari. Okay. So we have a sort of an explanation for Bishamai, why he's going to be a Nazir, because he said that he's going to be a Nazir. I was trying to retract from it a little bit to say that it's turning into that it's a Nazir from Gregos. We don't accept it. Basil Savri Reb Shimon. Basil holds like Reb Shimon. The Tanana was taught in a Mishnah, Reb Shimon Paiter Shleis Nadav Kederach HaMisnadim. This is a very interesting piece. We're going to have it on when we turn the page. That if someone accepts on himself a carbon mincha. Now, a carbon mincha is a meal offering. It's made from flour, but it's from wheat flour. There's one exception, but it says I'm going to bring a mincha from barley. So the sages say, well, he said he's going to bring a mincha. He said he's going to bring a mincha. So he's got to bring a mincha. I know he said barley, but so what? Let's adjust it to mean that it's going to be wheat. Reb Shimon says no. He said he's going to bring a mincha from barley, then it becomes totally nothing. So Basil says the same thing applies here. But just like Reb Shimon says, that if you say you're going to bring a mincha from barley, you've said nothing. So Tavir, you said you're going to be a nazir from figs, you said nothing. That's an easy one. We have a source for well, Reb Shimon is of course later than Basil, but we have the explanation for what Basil holds is that if you didn't say it correctly, you said nothing. What is that? Right.
We don't cross
Right.
yeah.
Masnisin, we turn the page. Masnisin like Tana. Our Mishnah doesn't fit with the following Tana. Now, I was going to explain the machlek is slightly different. The Tanya was taught in a brayser. Reb Nosson Eimer. Reb Nosson is a friend of Reb Meir. Reb Nosson Abavli. Reb Nosson Eimer, Bishami Eimer Nader v'Nazir. Bishami says in this case, two things happen. First of all, he becomes a Nazir. Second of all, he can't eat the figs. We did not say that in our Mishnah. In our Mishnah, we said that he becomes a Nazir, but he can eat figs. Here he's saying that he can't eat the figs either. According to this, according to Reb Nosson, it would be two separate. Basil Laimrim, Nader vein Nazir. And Basil in our Mishnah said that it's nothing. But according to Reb Nosson, Basil says that he can't eat the figs, but he's not a Nazir. According to Bishama, he's both. According to Basil, he's just one. He just can't eat the figs. So the Gemara explains, Bishami Savri la Reb Meir Reb Yehuda. Bishami must hold like Reb Meir that he must have meant something when he said Hareini Nazir. It's got to be meaningful, so he must be a Nazir. And he also holds like Reb Yehuda that says, what I meant was to vow from figs. So it's a vow from figs as well. He holds like both Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda in that instance. But Basil Savri la Reb Yosi. Basil will just hold that will follow the view of Reb Yosi, which says Teifus Lashon Achron. You always grasp the latter statement, which the latter statement was from figs. So he says he took a vow from figs. Now, why didn't we say that by us? Why doesn't our Tana hold that? We also said Teifus Lashon Achron. When we said that he's Teifus Lashon Achron, according to Reb Yosi, Igmar Devar of Adam Nitfas, we said that he was trying to get out of it, and we're going to look at that seriously, that he's trying to get out of the neder. And it's considered an annulment. Here he's viewing it that that's the whole neder. That's the whole neder. Was just the figs. Okay. Lishna Achrina, there's another version to this. Amrila, there's another way of saying this. Reb Nosson Eimer, Reb Nosson said, Bishami Amrim Nader Vein Nazir. He's only prohibited to eat the figs, but he's not a Nazir. I know who holds that, Reb Yehuda. That was Reb Yehuda in the Mishnah. And Basil says that he's not a nazir and he's allowed to eat the figs. There's no neder either. So who's that? That's also the Tana of our Mishnah. Well, Beishamai is Rabbi Yehuda. Beishamai was following Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that he's only prohibited to eat the figs. Basil Karib Shimon. Basil holds like Reb Shimon that says that if you don't do it perfectly correct, then you did nothing. That's what he said by the carbon. Okay, Tanan Hassam, we learned over there in Masechta Menachos. If someone says, "Harei alai mincha lahavi min hasayrim," accepts on himself carbon mincha from barley. No, there is only one mincha from barley. Well, actually, there's two. There's the saita, brings barley, and then there's the carbon aimer, which is barley. But you can't do that on your own. When you bring a mincha on your own, it has to be wheat. So yavi menachitim, we say that he has to bring wheat. Kamach, he says he's going to bring from the coarse flour. Yavi seilas, he has to bring the fine flour. That's the way the mincha is brought, from the fine flour. Shalei b'shemen u'levaina, he's not going to put on it the oil of the frankincense. So Yaviana b'shemen u'levaina, he has to put on the oil and the frankincense. Chatzi Yisarin, by the way, in Fairchild, they have a frankincense tree. They have a frankincense tree. If you go over there, you have to look for it. Not in Trim Spice, in Fairchild. You have to get the resin out of it. So, if he says Chatzi Yisarin, the lowest, the minimal mincha has to be an Yisarin. That's a 1/10 of an ephah. If he says he's only going to bring half an Yisarin, then Yavi Yisarin Shalom, he has to bring a full Yisarin. Yisarin Umechza, let's say it says Yisarin and a half. Yavi Shnayim, he has to bring 2, because it goes by multiples of Yisarin. Yisarin is a 1/10 of a ephah, which is a type of measurement. Reb Shimon Paiter, Reb Shimon says he's exempt, because he didn't donate the way people normally donate. He found it on. He didn't donate it the way it's supposed to be donated. So what he said was nothing. Who would say that? That if someone says, I'm going to bring a carbon mincha from barley, that he has to bring the mincha from wheat, who would hold that? So we look at our Mishnah. Someone says that it's going to be a nazir from figs. Well, Beishamai says that works. So Amar Chizkiya b'machlekes shnuya. That's actually a machlekes. Beishamai, this is Chizkiya again. We had Chizkiya yesterday, I think. He argued yesterday with Rabbi Yochanan. Today he's going to argue with Rabbi Yochanan as well. It's a machlekes and it's Beishamai. Why? Lav Amri Beishamai kema gregus min advela havi nazir. Hachanami kema min asayim maybe min achitim. Same thing over here. Just like over there, he said when he was going to be a nazir from figs, he becomes a nazir from wine, right? So it's over here when he says that he's going to bring a mincha from barley, he has to bring the mincha from wheat. It's perfect. Rabbi Yochanan says no. You could say that it's not just Beishamai, it's even Beis Hillel. Even Beis Hillel would say that over here he has to bring the mincha from wheat. Bayas, when he said he's going to be a nazir from figs, it was really nothing. But Aimer, here we're talking about where the person says, the person over here is saying, by the carbon mincha, he says, I thought that that's how it was supposed to be. I wanted to bring a mincha. I thought that that's how it was. I thought that was the details. Okay, I made a mistake about the details, so I'll bring it the other way. I'll bring the wheat. I was going to bring a mincha. By us, it's so far removed from being a nazir from figs. There's no such thing. So you can't explain it. So buy a nazir from figs, it's nothing. Because there's no way of explaining that he just made this little mistake. But when it comes to bringing a mincha from barley, I know there's a saita that brings a mincha from barley. I thought I could also. So, okay, I can't. Okay, so I'll do it the other way. So that's how Rabbi Yochanan says that this Mishnah in Menachos could fit like Beis Hillel or Beishamai. Amar Chizkiya. What's the problem?
No, I was just thinking, reminding me of what their sign said. It was like he messed up on the word. He
Oh.
messed up with it.
Right. Right.
It was a good point.
What he said was the other way. He said that he messed up on the word nazir. He meant to say nadar.
And
That was
here
just a.
he messed up on, he said barley instead of wheat.
No, here he thought that barley was okay.
Yeah.
Because it's okay in other ones. So he has to make a switch.
Right.
The old. What did you do wrong?
Projections.
After the show.
Projections tomorrow.
Amar Chizkiah. Chizkiah says, Leishanu. This was only taught in the Mishnah in Menachos. Was only taught. Sha'amar minasayrim. He said that he's going to bring a mincha from barley. Aval amar min adashim. But if he says he's going to bring a cover mincha from lentils, le'maisi v'le'klum. There's no such thing. Then it's totally nothing. Okay.
I was sure the professor was going to bring this whole bag of all
Lentils.
these different things together.
Relevant.
Lentils. So you should go borrow from a Reuven or whoever it was.
You mean Yaakov? A lentil soup? Red lentil soup? So 1 second. Michti, the Gemara says. Chizkiah came on, look at Mukam Lala Masnisa. The Chizkiah got into trouble there. He said that the Mishnah fits with Beis Shammai. And then he limits the Mishnah itself. Because it's only talking about if he said he's going to bring a mincha from barley. Not if he said from lentils. Problem is that if the Mishnah is Beis Shammai, so Beis Shammai said that if he takes a vow to be a nazir from figs, that's similar to accepting a carbon mincha from lentils. Nazir from figs is the same distance as a mincha from lentils. Both of them you never do. There's no such thing. So if the Mishnah is Beis Shammai, and when it comes to Beis Shammai's view about the Nazir, he does become a Nazir, even though he said from figs. So it should also work for lentils. And Chizkiah says that it doesn't. You see, according to Rabbi Yochanan, if it's perfect. According to Rabbi Yochanan, if he said, Rabbi Yochanan says it fits even according to Beis Hillel. So why over there is he not a Nazir, and over here he has to bring the carbon mincha? So over there it's so far removed that's why it doesn't work. But over here, that's what he thought. He thought the detail was different. So, but if he would change the detail here to make it so far removed, then it won't work just like over. It fits perfectly. But according to Chizkiah, you can't say both of those things.
No, but isn't he explaining Beis Hillel?
Who is Rabbi Yochanan?
Yeah, and Hizkiah, the second Hizkiah.
No, Chizkiah is explaining the Mishnah in Menachos, which Chizkiah also made another statement that Mishnah in Menachos is Beis Shammai. So the Gemara now asks, "Come on, Mukim Lo Masnisim. How did Chizkiah learn the Mishnah over there? Who did he establish it like? Beis Shammai. He said it was like Beis Shammai. But the comparison of lentils to a mincha is very similar to figs to a nazir. The Kamri Beis Shammai have a nazir, and Beis Shammai says that he is a nazir. So why doesn't it become a carbon mincha if he says lentils? So the Gemara says Hadar Bechizkiah. You're right. Chizkiah retracted, and now he learns like Rabbi Yochanan, and he says that the Mishnah could really be even Beis Hillel. So he learns like Rabbi Yochanan now. That it's the reason, the distinction between the Nazir and the Mincha is that how extreme it is. The Gemara asks, why did he retract? He retracted because the Mishnah was problematic. In other words, he could have gotten out of this differently. He could have said, the Mishnah means even that, but he had a problem because he had a problem with the Mishnah that says, my area, the Tani Menasairim. Why specifically? Why did the Mishnah grab the case that he said a Nazir, he donated a carbon mincha from barley, listening min adashim, let it say that he donated a korban mincha from lentils. If it's really Beis Shammai, then even if he said from lentils, it should work. Ella, rather, okay, the following words, Tosfos has a different version to this. And it goes like this. Ella, Hasam, Bishum Tu'usahu. Over there, it's because of a mistake. It's not in the text. Over in our Gemara, it says, Savra Chizki Kam Bishami Hasam Karab Yehuda. Over there, it's a mistake. The whole difference is that over there by the barley, that's a simple mistake. I thought that mincha could be by barley, like it does by a saita and by aimer or whatever. But over here it would be. But to say from lentils, that's impossible. Rabbi Yechanan Amar, listen to this. Rabbi Yechanan also says something surprising. Rabbi Yechanan Amar afilu min adashim. Rabbi Yechanan says it could even be from lentils. Person accepts on himself a mincha from lentils, he has to bring the mincha. Problem is that Rabbi Yechanan was the one that said that the Mishnah is even Beis Hillel. And there's no such thing. How did he fit it with Beis Hillel? Beis Hillel says that if he says a nazir from figs, it's nothing. But if he says that he's going to bring a mincha from barley, that was different, because barley was a real mistake. He thought that it could be, so you adjust the detail. But then Rabbi Yechanan goes on and says that no, even if he said from lentils, it's also going to be a mincha. The problem is then that really can't be Beis Hillel, because lentils and figs, lentils to mincha and figs to nazir is the same thing. And for nazir it doesn't work, and for the korban mincha it will work.
His first statement was that nothing applied.
Nothing, right?
And then he had another opinion.
Yeah, but ignore those other opinions. Those were separate Tanaim. We're following the Mishnah. Back to the Mishnah. Yeah, we had other versions of what Beis Hillel held, but we're going back to the Mishnah now. Problem is, we're talking about that the reason why it works by the korban mincha is because if I would have thought that it wouldn't work, I would have said differently. But I really wanted to bring the mincha. But that doesn't apply if you would have said lentils, because it's a totally something that never happened. Gemara answers that l'dvarav dechizki hu dekamar. Rabbi Yechanan doesn't really hold this. Rabbi Yechanan was just telling Chizkiah, at my time of kahadrisbach, what's the reason why you retracted? This is like, first he argues with Chizkiah, then Chizkiah agrees to him, and then he argues with him again. He says, why are you agreeing with me? You should go back to your opinion. Why are you retracting and holding like me? You're even mistaken now. So he's telling you, you're mistaken when you said what you said, and you're mistaken when you changed. What caused you to change? What bothered you was that the Mishnah didn't say that if he takes accepts on himself to bring a korban mincha from lentils, why didn't it say that? Well, obviously it's not Beis Shammai. That's what Chizkiah said. Dilma laimi bai kamar. Maybe it's exactly the opposite. Of course, if he says from lentils, it's going to be good. For sure, if he says, I'm going to bring a mincha from lentils, that he has to bring a mincha, say that he's trying to retract. And when he's trying to retract, what does Beis Shammai hold? That you accept the first thing that a person says. But if he would have said from barley, maybe he's not retracting. Maybe that's actually an explanation for what he's saying. It's not a retraction. What he meant to say is that what I want to bring is specifically that type of mincha, either like the saita or like the aimer, which is exactly what I wanted. And if not, then I never took that vow. If he said lentils and he's trying to retract, we say we don't accept your retraction. But if he's saying barley, then maybe he's explaining what he really means. And if it doesn't work, then he never vowed that. So Kamash Malan, comes to teach us the Ma'asim Menachitim that nevertheless he still has to bring from wheat. So it turns out that really it could be Beis Shammai. Really, the Mishnah could be Beis Shammai according to Chizkiah. This is Rabbi Yochanan's claim to Chizkiah. Really, the Mishnah could be Beis Shammai, and a person would whatever he says has to have meaning. So if he said adashim from lentils, we would say that it has meaning. He says he took on himself carbon mincha. I know afterwards he said lentils, but so what? You're trying to get out of it by saying lentils. That's like trying to say figs by the nazir, and we don't let him get out of it. So, and we would say that he becomes a nazir over there. You'd say you'd have to bring the carbon mincha here. Anyway, okay. Right, the Aimer and the Saita are two barley. So, was there a connection, Aimer and Saita? I don't know. Right, so over there, maybe he meant to say that specifically, that's the type of mincha that I wanted to bring. And it's not a retraction, it's a explaining.
To the next.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You want to do?
Thank you. Have a good day.
The one line.
Have a good day.